So in our last video, we saw how the drop down was done. And at that point, I told you that we will be looking at how we can have certain attributes in our Eloquent models so that we can have some computed value in it and then pass it to the front end. So in here, if I show you the database structure, inside our videos, we don't have any video ID being stored, but every YouTube video has its video ID. So I want to fetch that video ID, and the front end should be able to generate, or rather call, the thumbnail from the YouTube's website. So if you see, this is imgyoutube.com vi / and the video ID mq default will give me an image, but I want the video ID on the front end. And that's what we are going to see how we can do today. So first of all, inside video.php, which is our video model, I have one attribute called appends. Okay, this will mean that the video ID attribute will be always appended to the model. Okay, now we have a relation of videos, which is fine. This is interesting. Why I have video with a relation of has many videos? It's almost like a loop. I should remove this. This is a mistake from my end. Okay, and now let's go back to the attribute which we want. So we are planning to get an attribute video underscore ID. The video underscore ID will have the video ID of the YouTube video, which we will fetch from the video URL. So now, if you see what I have done in this attribute, I have created an instance of the video service and I have called YouTube thumbnail function on that service. Okay, so let's see what is happening over there. Okay, let me open that service file and go down. Okay, so this is where YouTube thumbnail is being generated, right? This is the function that we are calling. So inside this YouTube thumbnail, I am passing the URL. How am I getting that URL? This is by this .url, because the model has a property called URL, and so I'm sending that. When I get that URL, I am checking if that string has YOUT, because there are two types of URLs. If I go to the database, you will see I have YOUTU.be and there is YOUTUBE. Okay. So with that, I am looking for this string. If that string matches, then I'm returning the first part of that string, which has the ID. Okay, this is how I get the ID. Otherwise, it is an empty string. Okay, and that's how we will start getting an attribute in our video model. Which means if I go to this network tab and if I refresh, this is the list which is being called. And inside the data property, we can see video ID, right? These are videos. So we can see video ID in the object which is being returned. But then, as I told you, inside our database, this is the video table, right? We don't have any column called video ID. Basically, we have an attribute inside our model which is appended on the fly. Okay. Every time the video model is called, this attribute is appended to video model, and that's how we get the video ID property, which is defined over here. And yeah, the final result is in front of you. Without even saving the video ID, I am able to render this video's thumbnail, right? So yeah, this is a small tweak which I have made to make the application look a little interesting. Previously, as you can see, this was how it was looking. This is really not the best kind of UI which you would expect. So yeah, thumbnails are here. I'll be commenting it soon. Try to submit your video and see it there. And we are soon going to come up with a lot of new features like comments and stuff. We are going to add the logout functionality to our application. So we were able to log into our application, and as you know, we were dropping a token, which is also visible in the personal access token. Sorry, this is my old screenshot. But yeah, so you can see user 1 has this token right now. Okay. And we didn't have the ability to log out that particular user. So today, what I have done is completed the logout functionality, and I will go through the code which I have written for the logout. So first thing, let's look at our API. I have one route in here, which is a get URL user/logout, which calls the logout controller. It only has one method to call, so we are going to use the invoke. Now, if you remember, user.php has a trait which is has API token, and inside that we have current access token. What does it do? It basically from the middleware understands which token the user is using, and it allows us to get that, and then we can run the delete function on it. So which will mean when you had logged in at that point, the token which you got, we can delete that. Now if we look at our cookie token, which is inside the application this, right, you will see I have this token, and that token I want to now delete. So this API, when this API is called, right, I get the user object, I get the current access token, and I run the delete on it. And then I return a 204. 204 is content empty. Fair enough. So that takes care of our API. Now what do we do on our front end? So I added a page inside my code base. If you go to pages, let me close everything. Inside pages, user, we had verify. Now I have logout. Inside logout, the code is pretty simple. What it does is I have this component where I'm saying logging you out, but believe me, this will never get called because on the server side, I'm making a call and I'm done with it. So in the server side props, what I'm doing is I'm getting the cookie first. I'm making a get URL call to logout URL. Okay, this is the constant inside the URL service. And I'm calling that particular URL. So because this is an authenticated URL, I had to do this bits of code where I'm taking the cookie token storage key and I'm sending it in the authorization header. Because if you remember, the API which we created is inside the auth middleware, right? So we need that token. So we are passing that token. Once this call is made, I'm clearing out those tokens in here and I'm redirecting the user back to the login page. So if all our code is correct, what is going to happen? We log out, we go back to the login page, and if I go to my dashboard, the token is gone. So we are logging the user out, we are clearing the token, and we are also clearing the database with the unwanted tokens for that particular user. So yeah, that's about it. This was a small video on how this feature was implemented. If you like this video, do click on the thumbs up icon, and yes, don't forget to subscribe to my channel.